Warriors Into the Wild by Aaron Hunter. Chapter 4. Shocked yowls rose from the clan cats and echoed through the forest. Ravenpaw staggered slightly. His right foreleg glistened, wet with blood that flowed from a deep gash on his shoulder. We met 5 RiverClan warriors beside the stream, not far from the Sunning Rocks, he went on shakily. Oakheart was among them. Oakheart! Greypaw gasped beside Firepaw. He's the deputy of RiverClan. He's one of the greatest warriors in the forest. Lucky Ravenpaw. Wish you could have been me. I'd have really... Greypaw was silenced by a fierce glance from the old grey Tom, who had first sensed Ravenpaw's return. Firepaw turned its attention back to Ravenpaw. Redtail warned Oakheart to keep his hunting parties out of ThunderClan territory. He said the next RiverClan warrior to be caught in ThunderClan territory would be killed, but Oakheart would not back down. He said his clan had to be fed, whatever we threatened. Ravenpaw paused to wheeze for breath. His wound was still bleeding heavily, and he shook awkwardly to keep the weight off his shoulder. That's when the RiverClan cats attacked. It was hard to see what was happening. The fighting was vicious. I saw Oakheart had pinned Redtail to the ground, but then Redtail... Suddenly Ravenpaw's eyes rolled in his head and he lurched sideways. Half scrambling, half falling, he slithered off the high rock and collapsed onto the ground below. A ginger queen bounded toward him and crouched at his side. She licked his cheek briefly and called out, "Spotted Leaf!" Out of the fern-shaded corner trotted the pretty tortoiseshell Firepaw had noticed sitting beside Greypaw earlier. She hurried over to Ravenpaw and mewed for the queen to stand back. Then she used her small pink nose to roll the apprentice over so she could take a good look at the wound. She glanced up and meowed, "It's all right, Goldenflower. His wounds aren't fatal, but I need you to fetch some cobwebs to stop the bleeding." As Spotted Leaf sprinted back to her den, the hushed silence in the clearing was broken by a mournful howl. All eyes turned in the direction it had come from. A massive dark tabby had staggered through the gorse tunnel. Between his sharp teeth, the warrior held not prey, but the lifeless body of another cat. He dragged the tattered creature into the center of the clearing. Firepaw craned his neck and glimpsed a flash of a bright ginger tail hanging limply in the dust. Shock rippled through the clan like a chilled breeze. Beside Firepaw, Greypaw dropped into a crouch as grief swept over him. "Redtail!" "How did this happen, Tigerclaw?" demanded Bluestar from her position on the high rock. Tigerclaw let the scruff of Redtail's neck fall from his mouth. He looked steadily back at Bluestar. "He died with honor, struck down by Oakheart. I couldn't save him, but I managed to take Oakheart's life while he was still gloating over his victory." Tigerclaw's voice was strong and deep. Redtail's death was not in vain, for I doubt we will see RiverClan hunters in our territory again. Firepaw glanced at Greypaw. The apprentice's eyes were dark with sadness. After a moment's pause, several of the cats moved forward to lick Redtail's bedraggled fur. As they groomed, they purred hushed praises to the dead warrior. Firepaw whispered into Greypaw's ear, "What are they doing?" Greypaw didn't take his eyes off the dead cat as he replied, "His spirit may have left to join StarClan, but the clan will share tongues with Redtail one last time." "StarClan?" Firepaw echoed. "It's a tribe of heavenly warriors that watches over all the clan cats. You can see them in Silverpelt." Firepaw looked confused, so Greypaw explained. "Silverpelt is that thick band of stars you see each night stretching across the sky. Each star is a StarClan warrior. Redtail will be among them tonight." Firepaw nodded, and Greypaw stepped forward to share tongues with his dead deputy. Bluestar had remained silent while the first cats came to pay their respects to Redtail. Now she leapt down from the high rock and walked slowly over to Redtail's body. The other cats retreated, and watched as their leader crouched down to share tongues with her old comrade one last time. When she had finished, she raised her head and spoke. Her voice was low and thick with grief, and the clan listened in silence. "Redtail was a brave warrior. His loyalty to the ThunderClan could never be doubted. I always relied on his judgment, for it bore witness to the needs of the clan, and he was never swayed by self-interest or pride. He would have made a fine leader." Then she lowered herself onto her belly. Her head bowed, her paws stretched neatly before her, and silently she grieved for her lost friend. Several other cats came to lay down beside her, their bowed heads and hunched backs echoing her mournful pose. Firepaw watched. He had not known Redtail, but he couldn't help feeling moved as he witnessed the clan mourn. Graypaw came and stood beside him again. Dustpaw will be sad, he remarked. Dustpaw? Redtail's apprentice. That brown-striped tabby over there. I wonder who his new mentor will be. Firepaw glanced over at the small Tom who squatted near Redtail's body, staring unseeing at the ground. Firepaw looked past him to the clan leader. How long will Bluestar sit with him? He asked. Probably the whole night, replied Graypaw. Redtail was her deputy for many, many moons. She won't want to let him go too quickly. He was one of the best warriors. Not as big and powerful as Tigerclaw or Lionheart, but quick and clever. Firepaw looked at Tigerclaw, admiring the strength that swelled in his powerful muscles and broad head. His massive body showed signs of his warrior life. One of his ears was split into a deep V shape, and a thick scar sliced the bridge of his nose. Suddenly, Tigerclaw stood up and stalked over to Ravenpaw. Spotted Leaf was crouching beside Tigerclaw's wounded apprentice, using her teeth and front paws to press wads of cobweb onto his shoulder wound. Firepaw leaned toward Graypaw and asked, What's Spotted Leaf doing? Stopping the bleeding. It looked like a nasty cut, and Ravenpaw seemed really shaken up. He's always been a bit jumpy, but I've never seen him this bad before. Let's go and see if he's woken up yet. They made their way through the grieving cats toward the spot where Ravenpaw lay and settled themselves to a respectful distance away to wait until Tigerclaw had finished speaking. So Spotted Leaf, Tigerclaw addressed the tortoiseshell with a confident meow. How is he? Do you think you can save him? I've spent a lot of time training him up, and I don't want my efforts to be wasted at the first battle. Spotted Leaf didn't look up from her patient as she replied, Yes, a pity if after all your valuable training, he dies in his first fight, eh? Firepaw could hear teasing purr in her soft meow.